You don't belong in this family anymore. Maddie, Dad only invited you out of pity. Those were the words my sister Elise whispered loud enough for every relative at the table to hear as she slid my chair back with her foot, forcing me to stumble forward and catch myself on the edge of the table. The birthday ballroom went silent. Crystal glasses froze mid-air, forks hovered above plates, and I felt every eye burn into me. The lights above shimmered against the gold tablecloth. And for a second, the room swayed. My legs weakened not from the stumble, but from the familiar sting that lived under my skin. A reminder of the injury that still made stairs and long walks a battle. Elise saw it, and she smiled. "Careful," she said louder this time, waving her hand dramatically. "She'll probably pretend she's fainting again. Anything for attention." "Right." A few cousins laughed under their breath. Someone muttered, "Same old Maddie." My mother looked away. I swallowed hard, steadying myself, my fingers trembling around the back of the chair. "Elise, please stop." "Stop," she repeated, feigning shock. "Why? So you can play the victim again. So everyone can pretend you're fragile and helpless. Grow up." My father, who should have stepped in, just sighed and rubbed his forehead. "Girls, not tonight. Not tonight." Because his birthday mattered. Because appearances mattered. Because my dignity didn't. Elise wasn't finished. She never was. She leaned closer, her perfume sharp and sweet. "Honestly, this family's tired of carrying you. Maybe it's time you stop pretending you're part of us." Her words sliced through something deep inside me, something that had already been cracked for years. My vision blurred. My knees buckled. I felt myself tipping just enough that the chandelier above fractured into bright shards of light. And then, a hand caught my arm, firm, steady. Not Elise's. Not anyone from my family. A stranger. A man standing near the bar. He'd seen me falling before anyone who claimed to love me even moved. "You okay?" he whispered. "No. Not even close." But I nodded, blinking tears away as I straightened. Elise rolled her eyes, annoyed that someone had interrupted her performance. "See," she said to the table. "Told you she'd do something dramatic." I sat down slowly, breathing through the throbbing in my legs, through the humiliation, through the trembling ache in my chest. But beneath the shame, something else stirred quiet. Sharp. Certain. A memory. My father's voice from weeks earlier. "Madeline, when the time comes, I need you to stay calm. I've put protections in place." Protections? Elise didn't know. My mother didn't know. No one in that room knew what I now carried, and when the truth finally came out, none of them would ever speak to me the same way again. Before I continue, thank you for staying with me through this painful beginning. If any part of this moment feels familiar or mirrors something you've lived, your gentle support through a like, a comment, a share, or even a quiet subscribe truly means more to me than I can express. I'm grateful you're here with me. My injury didn't start with a fall or an accident that made sense. It began with a numbness that crept down my spine sophomore year of college, an ache that turned into burning, then into something worse. Something invisible. Something cruel. Doctors called it a degenerative nerve condition. My family called it overreacting. "You're young," Mom would say, waving me off whenever I winced. "Stop being dramatic." Elise was worse. "Oh, please." She'd laugh, watching me struggle with stairs. "You're not disabled. You're just lazy." She said it so often that other people began to believe her. Sometimes, I even started to believe her myself. But the pain was real. Nights where I couldn't stand. Mornings where my legs trembled too hard to carry me. Weeks where walking across the kitchen felt like crossing a desert barefoot. Dad was the only one who listened. The only one who drove me to appointments. The only one who sat beside me while I cried through physical therapy. The only one who didn't ask me to prove I was hurting. And then far too soon he got sick. Watching him weaken was like watching the foundation of our family crack apart. Elise stepped up publicly, smiling at dinners, posting pictures, pretending to be the perfect daughter. But when it mattered, when Dad needed help, she was always busy, always exhausted, always unavailable. I was the one who stayed. The nights when he couldn't sleep, the mornings when his medication made him dizzy, the afternoons when he wanted someone to read the newspaper while he rested. We talked about everything. Until one evening, near the end, when he said something I never expected. "Maddie," he whispered, his voice thin and papery. "You see clearly. Your sister only sees herself." I held his hand, feeling it shake. "Dad, I don't want to fight Elise." "You won't have to." He squeezed my fingers weakly. "But when I'm gone, she will." I stared at him, confused, scared. "What do you mean?" His eyes softened with a sadness I didn't understand then. "I've put protections in place," he said. "You'll understand when the time comes. But promise me something." "What?" "Don't let anyone make you believe you're less than you are." I promised, but the day he passed, my mother looked at me like I'd caused it, and Elise acted like she'd won something. The golden child inherited the spotlight. The sick one inherited silence. Weeks went by. I avoided family gatherings until Dad's birthday dinner, where Elise dragged my chair back, mocked my pain, and told the entire room I didn't belong. She didn't know that Dad saw that same cruelty long before he died. She didn't know he documented things. She didn't know he changed his legal plans after witnessing what she did to me last year. But I knew, and as the room laughed quietly behind their hands while I tried not to collapse, I realized something. Elise wasn't ready for the truth. But the truth was already coming. The inheritance meeting took place 3 weeks after Dad's birthday dinner, the same dinner where Elise tried to humiliate me into disappearing. She strutted into the attorney's office like she owned the marble floors, the smelling salts, and every inch of the oxygen in the room. "Maddie," she smirked, sliding into the seat beside me. "Don't try to make this weird. Dad loved me more. It's not your fault you were difficult." I tightened my grip on my handbag. "Elise, I'm not here to argue." She rolled her eyes dramatically. "Right. Because arguing takes energy, and you're always so fragile." A couple of our relatives chuckled. Mom placed a hand on Elise's arm. Not to stop her, but to encourage her. "Mr. Grayson," my father's attorney, entered the room with a stack of folders. He adjusted his glasses, cleared his throat, and took his seat. The room fell into a hush. "For the record," he began, "we are here to execute the last will and testament of Mr. Charles Crowell." Elise flipped her hair over her shoulder. "Let's not drag it out. Dad told me everything." I stared at her. "Did he?" She smirked. "Obviously. I was his favorite. Anyone with eyes could tell. Funny Dad never told her about the nights he cried when the pain medicine didn't work, or the mornings when he said he couldn't do this without me. But Elise didn't notice things like that. She didn't notice anyone but herself. "Mr. Grayson opened the first document. To my daughter, Elise Crowell. I leave the Crowell residence and the accounts associated with its upkeep." Elise beamed, shooting me a triumphant look. "Told you." I stayed silent. "And to my younger daughter, Madeline Crowell." The lawyer continued. I leave a cash sum of $20,000. A soft murmur swept through the room. 20,000. Just like Elise always wanted the smallest slice possible. Mom squeezed Elise's hand. Your father trusted you. Sweetheart. Elise looked at me with a pitying tilt of her head. You should be grateful. Maddie. At least he left you something. The old me would have shrunk. The old me would have forced a smile and whispered, thank you. But that version of me died long before Dad did. Mr. Grayson closed the folder. That concludes the original will. Elise tossed her hair and stood up. Perfect. We're done. No. Mr. Grayson interrupted. We're not. Elise frowned. What are you talking about? He reached for a thick envelope sealed in deep red wax. Your father left a codicil. A legally binding amendment added after the birthday gathering last year. Elise blinked. Confused. Then pale. After last year, she whispered. Yes. The attorney said. He instructed it be read only with both of his daughters present. My heartbeat remained steady, because I knew exactly what night he meant. The night she tore away my crutch and shoved me to the ground. The night Dad saw what she truly was. The night he made a decision she would never recover from. Mr. Grayson broke the seal. Elise lunged forward. No, wait, Dad wouldn't. He did. I said softly. Meeting her eyes, the room went silent. And for the first time in my life, Elise looked afraid. Mr. Grayson unfolded the codicil with a gravity that made the air in the room tighten. Elise sucked in a breath like she could reverse the outcome through panic alone. This amendment, he said carefully, was executed by your father 12 days after the birthday incident last year. Elise stiffened. It wasn't an incident she faked that fall. Everyone knows Maddie exaggerates, Mr. Grayson raised a hand. Ms. Crowell, please sit. You will have a chance to speak after the document is read. Elise's mouth snapped shut, but fury burned behind her eyes. He began. I have recently witnessed behavior within my family that deeply disturbed me. A ripple moved through our relatives like a gust of wind. On my birthday, I saw my daughter Madeline physically harmed, mocked, and humiliated while in visible pain. Elise gasped. He misunderstood, Mr. Grayson continued. Unfazed. It was recorded, posted online, and dismissed as a joke. But a father knows the difference between a joke and cruelty. Several relatives turned to Elise. Her face flushed dark red. That video was taken out of context, she snapped. Everyone was messing around. She wasn't even hurt. Aunt Lorna spoke quietly for the first time. Elise, she couldn't stand afterward. I remember her crying. Elise pointed at her. You're remembering it wrong. But the room had shifted. Truth was finally catching up. Mr. Grayson lifted a second sheet. Furthermore, I have reviewed medical assessments confirming the progression of Madeline's nerve condition. Every muscle in Elise's face twitched. She made those doctors pity her, no. Mr. Grayson said sharply, they verified her disability through imaging, nerve conduction tests, and physical evaluations. Your father received these results directly. Elise's jaw dropped. Dad never told me that. That's because... I said softly. You never asked. Her glare could have cracked glass. Mr. Grayson kept reading. Given what I witnessed, and given my concerns about Elise's long history of manipulative and hostile behavior toward her sister, I no longer believe she is fit to inherit or manage family assets. The room went silent as stone. Therefore, I revoke Elise Crowell's inheritance of the primary residence, associated accounts, and all major assets. Elise shot to her feet so fast her chair toppled backward. He would never do that to me, she screamed. I'm his firstborn. I'm the only one who cared about him. A heavy quiet followed. Everyone knew it wasn't true. You didn't even visit him during chemo. Aunt Lorna whispered. You skipped his physical therapy sessions. Uncle Gene added. You mocked Maddie in front of him. Someone else murmured. Elise spun, wild-eyed, pointing at everyone. You're all lying. This is some setup. This is Maddie's doing. She manipulated him. She got into his head. I stood slowly, leaning on my crutch. Elise, Dad saw who we were. Both of us. He made his decision because of what you did. Not because of anything I said. Her mouth fell open, some mix of hatred, fear, and disbelief. Mr. Grayson spoke again, calm, decisive. All major assets will be transferred under the authority of my daughter. Madeline Crowell. Elise's knees buckled. She caught herself on the table, breath shaking. And the room finally, fully understood the golden child had fallen. Before we move on, thank you for staying with me through this emotional confrontation. If any part of this moment resonates with your own experiences of finally being seen or heard, your thoughtful support through a like, to I've, a comment, a share, or a gentle subscribe truly means so much to me. I'm deeply grateful you're here. Elise stood frozen, breathing hard, fingers digging into the edge of the table, as if she could hold onto the life she always thought she'd inherit. No, she whispered, shaking her head violently. No. This is illegal. It's forged. Someone tricked Dad. He was sick, he didn't know what he was doing. Mr. Grayson calmly lifted one last folder. Your father anticipated that you might make that claim, he said, which is why he left behind additional documentation. Elise's eyes widened, pupils shrinking like a cornered animal's. What documentation? He opened the folder and laid out several items. A witness affidavit signed by two of Dad's closest friends. A medical confirmation of Dad's mental competence at the time he updated the will. A time-stamped email chain between Dad and the law office, and a small black USB drive sealed in its own envelope. The room held its breath. This, Mr. Grayson said, holding up the USB, contains a video message recorded by your father 2 weeks before his passing. Elise staggered back like she'd been slapped. You're lying. I said nothing. I didn't have to. Mr. Grayson plugged the USB into his laptop and angled the screen toward us. A loading symbol spun for a moment and then Dad's face appeared. Weak, pale, but unmistakably clear-eyed. My breath hitched. Hello. Elise. Hello. Maddie. Elise gasped like the air had been punched out of her lungs. Dad continued, voice soft but steady. If you're seeing this, it means I'm gone. And it means decisions have been made that I feared you wouldn't understand without hearing them directly from me. Elise covered her mouth. Tears streamed. But I couldn't tell if they were real or just another performance. Dad went on, Elise, you have always been bright. Charismatic. Capable of leading a room. But somewhere along the way, you confused confidence with cruelty. You hurt your sister when she was already hurting. I watched you turn her pain into entertainment. Elise shook her head violently. Dad. No. That's not, he didn't stop. And when I confronted you about it, you laughed. That was the moment I realized I could not leave you in charge of this family's assets. Gasps rippled through the room. Dad's eyes shifted. Maddie. Sweetheart, you were my anchor. You stayed. You cared. You showed compassion when no one else did. I want you to build a life where you are respected and safe. My eyes stung. I gripped my crutch tighter. I know my decision will anger some of you, Dad said. But I made it with a clear mind and a clear heart. Protect Maddie. Honor what she endured. The screen went black. Silence fell so heavy it felt like the air had thickened. Elise let out a broken sob and collapsed into her chair. Dad, how could you do this to me? Mom tried to reach for her. But Elise pulled her hand away. This is your fault too, she hissed. You always told me I was better than her. Mom looked stunned, as if seeing her daughter clearly for the first time. Mr. Grayson closed the laptop. As of this moment, all major assets legally belong to Madeline Crowell. Elise's head snapped toward me, mascara streaking down her face. Give it back, she whispered. Please. Maddie, please. Just give me something. Her voice trembled. For the first time, she wasn't the golden child. She was just a girl facing a truth she'd built her entire identity from avoiding. I swallowed, my voice soft but unwavering. I'm not taking anything from you. Elise, you lost this long before today. Her face crumpled, and she finally understood the inheritance wasn't the loss. The loss was realizing who she had become. The signing process was surprisingly quiet. No yelling, no insults. Just the sound of pens scratching paper and the occasional shaky breath from Elise as tears hit the table one by one. Mr. Grayson slid the final document toward me. Ms. Crowell. Once you sign this, all assets under your father's estate will transfer to your legal authority. My hand hovered over the pen. Years of being doubted. Years of being mocked for the body I didn't choose. Years of watching Elise bask in a spotlight that burned me every time I tried to stand near it. For the first time, none of it defined me anymore. I signed my name steady. Deliberate. The room shifted. Elise let out a choked sound. So that's it, I lose everything because of one mistake, one Aunt Lorna echoed. Elise, it wasn't one. Elise whipped toward her. Oh. Shut up, you're all turning on me because of her pity act. I stood slowly, gripping my crutch. This isn't about pity. It's about choices. Don't lecture me. Maddie, she snapped, voice cracking. You don't understand the pressure I'm under. Everyone expects me to be perfect. No, I said softly. Everyone just expected you to be decent. Her face crumpled. Mom finally spoke, voice trembling so hard it barely held shape. Elise, your father tried to warn you. We both did. You just wouldn't listen. Elise blinked at her. Then, something broke inside her quiet. Small. Irreversible. She sank into her chair, head in her hands. Mom, what do I do now? Mom looked at me, pleading silently for something I didn't owe. I took a breath. Gentle. Honest. That's up to you. Elise, you can learn from this. Or you can keep blaming everyone else. But I'm done being your target. She didn't respond. Couldn't. Because for the first time, she had to sit in the truth she'd outrun for years. Mr. Grayson closed the folders. Ms. Crowell, you're authorized to meet with the financial board next week. They'll expect your leadership. Leadership. A word no one had ever given me. Yet Dad believed in me enough to carve it into his final decisions. I walked out of the office slowly, feeling the weight of the documents in my hands and the weight lifting off my shoulders. Outside, the air was cool, bright, new. My steps were steady, painful. Yes, but mine. I wasn't walking away from my family. I was walking toward myself. the life I'd been too afraid to claim, the future Dad knew I deserved, the strength I'd always had but never been allowed to use. At the corner of the building, I whispered, "I hope you're proud of me." Dad, in the drifting quiet, for the first time, I believed he truly would be. "Thank you for staying with me through the end of this journey." If Madeline's story touched something familiar or gave you a sense of strength, your gentle support through a like, a comment, a share, or even a quiet subscribe means more to me than I can express. I'm deeply grateful you were here,